New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome back, I should say, to Global Focus today. I am your host, Reverend Dr. Sharri Johnson, and we have a very interesting guest today. I know that's redundant. We always have interesting guests. This one is really neat. She has a whole new topic, and it happens to be one of my favorite things in the world, which is gratitude. So let me tell you a little bit about Reverend Patricia Wagner. She left corporate America in 1998 to more fully align her career with her spiritual beliefs and opened Grace Unlimited Incorporated in 2000. Isn't that marvelous? Grace Unlimited. She has practiced meditation since 1977 and considers it the foundation of her ongoing spiritual growth. Besides being a divine science minister and a licensed Unity teacher, she taught an energy healing modality and provided energy healing treatments for over 16 years. It was by applying metaphysical principles and spiritual truth in her energy healing sessions that she's able to say with conviction, everything is energy and therefore everything is changeable. It is the frequency at which we most consistently vibrate that outpictures in our lives. The higher the vibration, the more heavenly life becomes. Who could argue with that? The higher the vibration, the more heavenly life becomes. In 2019, she closed her energy healing practice to focus entirely on bringing 3 messages she has received from Spirit out into the world. Those messages are, and we're going to talk about all of them, 2 Doors Vision, Looking for Light, and the Christ Challenge. A chalice. I'm sorry, the Christ Chalice, like the cup. Patricia is the founder of a very active private Facebook group called Living in Heart-Centered Gratitude, which you are welcome to join and which I belong to and get messages from all the time. So thank you very much, and please help me welcome Reverend Patricia Wagner. Yay! Thank you so much for saying yes to being here.
Oh, Reverend Sharri, thank you for asking me. This is quite an honor and a privilege, and I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I want to know, before I start asking you about the individual messages, you have a PowerPoint to show. Do you want to do that first, or do you want to do the messages separately, or is it part of them?
I think, well, I'd like to say a few words first, if that's okay.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Go
so
these
messages, just as a setup to let you know, they because of my meditation that started in 1977, I mean, it's what gave me the capacity to learn how to quiet my mind and connect in that divine connection. I know you know all about this, and receive messages from Spirit from time to time through the decades. But there are 3 particular messages that I feel are meant to assist humanity in awakening. And so, as you mentioned in my bio, in 2019 is when I closed my business practice, my energy healing practice, to devote full time to bringing these messages out to the world. So this is a wonderful opportunity. And I want to just say a little bit more about this because I have a quote that actually Steve Farrell, the founder of Humanity's Team, was quoting Michael Beckwith, who said this. He said, Michael himself has said that God often does not call those who are already qualified to serve, but more often qualifies those who are called by guiding them through life experiences that allow them to become stronger, more compassionate, and clear about the messages that humanity most needs to hear so they can become better messengers. That epitomizes the life that I've seen evolve in my life. So I just wanted to set that up before we get on to the messages.
Well, I really appreciate that because I think that it is absolutely essential for people to understand that A, spirituality is normal,
Yes.
and B, we are all spiritual, and C, God never shuts up.
God, what?
God never shuts up. We just don't listen. So what I think you're fixing to tell us is how to listen. And what happened when you figured that out for yourself?
What happened when I was listening? That's exactly right. so we can as you know, I began meditating in 1977, and that was like to quiet a very anxious mind. I didn't do it for spiritual purposes. It was just I had 3 young children, my marriage was falling apart, and I had a very busy mind. I knew it was not healthy for me or for my kids or anyone. So, as Spirit always brings us exactly what we need, this very common magazine that we had a subscription to at that time, like Time or Life or whatever, it arrived, and the lead story, the cover page, was about meditation, transcendental meditation. So I read the article, and it said that people could find peace of mind, and I knew that was exactly what I needed. So I didn't know transcendental meditation, but I remembered back to a time when I was a little girl and could still my mind. And I taught myself to meditate. What I didn't realize is the profound love and divine connection that Spirit was able to bring through once I learned how to still my mind and yet leave it open and receptive. And that's how these messages started coming forth. So everybody can do that. It's just all available, as we know. And so, anyway, uh, through meditation, I actually found metaphysics, and I knew that was true because of previous experiences I had as a little girl, and also a spiritual. I was always in the metaphysical section of the bookstores looking for things. So for 15 years, I had a very unguided, uncharted course of just um, soaking in as much spirituality and metaphysics as I could. And then someone in 1993 told me about unity. So as soon as I went there, I started hearing those messages every Sunday. In 1998, I began on their track to become a licensed unity teacher, which for me took 17 years because I wasn't after the license, I was after the spiritual understanding. And in that time as well, I found A Course in Miracles. So all of that was happening in the background while these messages began coming through, and they began in 1999. So we can go to the slideshow now.
All right. Let's go to the slideshow. There we go. Oops. No. There we go. Okay. All righty.
This came actually after a sacred silence retreat at Unity Village in 1999. And that sacred silence retreat, I can tell you, when I arrived there, I was at the very lowest point in my life. I didn't realize even the name of it, but for the months preceding that sacred silence retreat, when it began, I was going through a dark night of the soul. And my Course in Miracles friends and I had registered in January, and then it began in May, this retreat. I totally surrendered. I removed myself from my friends as much as possible. I found a special place to meditate every morning on the grounds before breakfast. I spent time in every chapel on the Unity Village grounds. And in the library, spent a lot of time there reading, journaling, as much as I could, absorbing. And then, of course, they had their programs during the retreat too. But this was a sacred silence retreat. So for 3 whole days, it was silence, complete silence. From the very beginning, besides surrendering, I was calling on Jesus and the Holy Spirit to help me. I mean, like I said, I was at my lowest point. But by the end of that retreat, I was feeling nothing but gratitude and joy. And so I wanted to continue that retreat atmosphere when I got home. And because I was self employed in 1999, I was able to rearrange my whole schedule. I continued the meditations several times every day in prayer, and also reading from A Course in Miracles. And also, I had purchased a 3 cassette tape version of Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady. I had never been familiar with her work, but I played those tapes over and over and over again for 3 years. Little did I know that what I was doing was embedding that truth with a capital T into my consciousness by doing that. So that was remarkable for me. It was after I got home from that retreat several weeks later that, on what seemed like a very ordinary day, this 2 doors vision just one afternoon appeared right before me. And it was so beautiful, and there was a complete knowing that came with it. And this is what it said. There was an awareness that the purpose of every life experience, every thought, every relationship, every circumstance, every moment on this earth is for realizing our oneness with God. I saw 2 doors just floating freely above a scene whose beauty could only be described as heaven on earth. On one door were written the words, "Dark Night of the Soul," and on the other door was written the word, "Gratitude." There was a knowing that I can consciously choose the door of gratitude to become aware of oneness, or life would choose the other door for me to create that same awareness. Through either door, consciously or unconsciously, life would lead me to oneness and ultimately to creating heaven on earth. Woo! That was a powerful vision. That was a powerful vision. And I knew it was divinely sent. And yet I didn't have the consciousness back in 1999 to embody it. I wrote it down because I was used to journaling at that point. I wrote down exactly what I had experienced, and I'd share it with close friends through the years. I'd tuck it in the back of students' folders who took my courses. But it was only 19 years later to when I began publicly talking about it. And that happened at a women's expo in 2018. And quite honestly, I didn't even know I was going to be talking about it until 3 weeks before. When I was already planning to talk about some other subject. And 3 weeks before, Spirit, talk about the 2 doors vision. And that's when it began. So in order to talk about that vision, I had to prove it to myself. And so that's what I did. For the 7 days prior to that talk at that women's expo, I remained in my heart in gratitude, anchored to the feeling. You see, I knew I couldn't think grateful thoughts all day, but I knew through prayer chaplaincy training, through giving talks, through giving workshops, that I could remain anchored to the feeling of gratitude in my heart for long periods of time. And so that's what I did. And I made that a number 1 priority, where anchoring to the feeling of gratitude in my heart all day, every day for those 7 days prior to that talk was what I promised myself to do. Well, sure enough, there was an experience that happened on the second day of that 7-day commitment that required me to recommit to staying in my heart in gratitude. And I can tell you, by doing that, the whole situation did a 180-degree turn, proving to myself without a shadow of a doubt the transformative power of this simple practice of anchoring to the heart in gratitude. For long periods of time, you can develop it and train yourself to stay there all day, every day. And life becomes a joy. You start beginning to see how it changes you from the inside out. Your life becomes total fulfillment, total connection, total joy. It's just, this is what you can expect if you begin daily committing to anchoring to the feeling of gratitude in your heart. This is what I personally experienced by learning that process and staying there. First of all, my heart opened. It opened so wide, and it was relaxed. It felt safe. It felt secure. And I experienced, possibly for one of the first times, that I wanted to connect with people. I'm really kind of an introvert that I love my solidarity here with my husband and myself out in the country. So, but this feeling was wanting to connect with others. And I knew also I wanted to spend a lot more time in nature. I began appreciating everything. I became a generous giver. And that's all I really wanted to do, was just give and share, and things outpictured from that. I felt more gentle and kind, more loving and caring. And over time, with consistency, I noticed that I began to develop a resiliency. Things that used to bother me in the past, they no longer did. I stayed centered even when they were going on. I stayed centered. And instead of reacting, I responded. My whole priorities changed. And that's why in 2019, I closed my energy healing practice to devote full time to bringing these messages out to the world. So I just wanted, more than anything else, to be of service to others and to be a blessing in the world every day. And that's exactly what will happen to everyone who takes on this practice and stays diligently with it. It raises our vibrational frequency. And as we do, we learn to sustain ourselves. It naturally sustains us in that higher vibration of gratitude, which opens our hearts to love, to joy, to peace, to fulfillment, to unity consciousness, and ultimately to the realization of oneness. But you know what I think the real gift is with this little simple practice of anchoring to the feeling of gratitude in the heart? I believe it's because it's universal. Anyone and everyone can do this practice. They can train themselves to do this, because no matter what a person's background is, no matter what their belief system, they don't even have to be spiritually minded. Their heart has a memory of the times that they have felt grateful. And all they have to do is activate that feeling again of gratitude in their heart and anchor there. And they can train themselves to stay there. And if they commit to it and cultivate it as a daily practice, their whole life will change. And the whole energy field that they experience will lift up. And as you know, energy is unbounded. As we lift up, the world lifts up with us. And so it's just the perfect formula for adding to the light of the world, being an instrumental participant in the paradigm shift that we've all been working for decades. It is just a simple formula. So I have such gratitude to the Institute of Heart Math, who has for over 30 years dedicated themselves to scientifically proving and documenting the monumental benefits of an appreciative heart. So Heart Math is just an amazing institution, and I totally am a member of them and love what they do. So So that's all for now. I want to talk about this, but we'll come back to it because it's evolved into the practice of living in heart-centered gratitude on a whole different scale. But for the next slide, I want to share with everyone is this two doors vision. Now, remember, I said that, I'm sorry, it's the looking for light. Excuse me, the next one. Yes. Back in 1999, when the two doors vision arrived, I knew it was sacred, but I didn't get it. I didn't know how to apply it. So Spirit sends me 2 years later in 2001, coming out of meditation one morning, I asked Spirit, how can I stay consciously connected to God outside of meditation time? Well, instantly this downloaded this awareness, this seeing light flashing here and there, and I knew it was Spirit. I knew it was Spirit, and I also had the knowing that if I can consciously see that light as Spirit, that it created this realization of oneness and an awareness that God is everywhere present. So I didn't waste any time. That day, that very day, I got this, and I played it like a game where as I was driving around doing errands, I looked for light. And here's the thing, when you're looking for light, you can see it everywhere. It's reflected everywhere. Light is everywhere. But if I'm not looking for it, it fades in the background. And even though it's present, I really don't recognize it. But I was playing this game of looking for light. And light was reflecting off of car windows and chrome and buildings and signs. And every time I saw it, I knew it was like Spirit saying, here I am, Patricia. Here I am too. There is not a spot that I am not. I am here always. And it totally filled my heart with gratitude. It lifted my vibrational frequency. By the end of the day, it just created this feedback loop of seeing light and Spirit and good everywhere, filling my heart with gratitude, joyfully expecting more, and it came over and over again. It was so powerful. So that little looking for light game I have used ever since 2001 in a myriad of ways. But the two most often ways I use it is first is like in nature to see light. If I'm outside seeing light, or even inside seeing light, just recognizing it's embedding my consciousness. It's training all of my senses to an awareness of God's presence. And it's also a way to make that divine connection really more real, that awareness of God's presence, that oneness, that communion, that practicing the presence. It's a powerful little game. But here's another way I've always used it. I've used it whenever I felt like I was going into a challenging situation. And so in order to not go down and entrain and into a lower vibration, I would begin playing that game of looking for light, keeping a constant awareness of God's presence in that whole situation and everyone present, including me. And so it keeps our consciousness at this raised vibration where I'm seeing light and good and God everywhere. And so you don't entrain and come down into a lower vibrational frequency. So what it does is it creates you as a energetic thermostat at a high vibration, so that everything, because of the natural laws of resonance and entrainment, everything, if you maintain and sustain that higher consciousness of seeing God everywhere, of being aware of omnipresence, the only place entrainment can take place is up to your vibrational frequency, because it creates this powerful electromagnetic field by maintaining that higher awareness of God's presence, that where you don't get snagged in the muckety muck of appearances. So it's a powerful tool, and I really encourage other people to use looking for light. You know what it's similar to? It's similar to Emmett Fox's The Golden Key, where he says, no matter what the difficult situation is, here's the key. You remove your thoughts and your focus from the situation, the problem, and you turn them totally to God. It's also like the Dr. Sue Sicking has a book called Only Believe. Her very first chapter is called Looking Through, where she's talking continually about looking through the divine essence in everything. Because we know that God is everywhere. It's about the Course in Miracles, who one of the lessons of the Holy Spirit in the Course in Miracles is be vigilant only for God and his kingdom. It's Michael Beckwith when he says, look with inner eyes, see the invisible, hear the inaudible. And it's Patricia Robles, a New Thought teacher that I really like. And she talks about perceiving the immaculate concept of divine perfection. That's what we in New Thought know metaphysical principles. We know spiritual truth. We can actually live as metaphysicians by playing this little game of looking for light. So I use an affirmation with this looking for light game. It's all light, it's all good, it's all God. And I've trained myself as I'm playing the game of looking for light to use that affirmation. So what it has become for me is a conditioned response. So even if I'm not playing the game, if I see something discordant or something that is an appearance of something less than where I want my consciousness to be, because I've conditioned that affirmation so much while playing the game of looking for light, all I have to declare is, it's all light, it's all good, it's all God. And it immediately raises my awareness up to the vantage point of seeing with a single eye, seeing as God sees, knowing the truth that God is everywhere present. So it's powerful. Okay, so that's enough for now about looking for light. Let's go to the next slide. So this one I want to share with your viewers because this came in 2015. And you know, Spirit brought me the looking for light because I didn't really get the two doors vision, right? I didn't put it into practice. So she brought me the looking for light. And then in 2015, I still needed help. I needed help in knowing that I am a divine being. You know, I knew it intellectually, but there was still going on within me a feeling of less than, of, lack of self-worth and not good enough, all those kind of old conditioned things from perhaps childhood. So a minister asked me to take over her class the following week because she was going to be out of town. And the topic of that class that following week was God mind. Well, on a Sunday, sitting in a sanctuary waiting for a service to begin, I silently asked Spirit, how do I explain God mind? Instantly, this conceptualization downloaded. And because I know all of your viewers know what this possibly all the components of it represent, I'm just going to briefly take you through it. It's a conceptualization of how the Christ mind operates and how Christ consciousness functions. As you can see, it has the absolute God, omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence, and it has the three aspects of the human mind: the superconscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the conscious mind. And it also depicts the relative world, the world that we see, the world of appearances, and both the non-physical relative world and the physical relative world of form. In a Christ conscious mind, our mind, our human mind, is left still, yet open and receptive to receive insights, revelations, knowings, visions, divine ideas constantly in flow from divine mind, from God mind, into and through our superconscious mind that embeds our subconscious mind, that brings those divine ideas to our conscious mind, and then we consciously bring them out into the world of form, in the physical relative world, and we influence the race consciousness in the non-physical relative world. That's how our mind is supposed to operate in Christ consciousness. Now, that's not what we're seeing today, but this is all possible. And what this conceptualization brought us is a realization that not only are we born fully equipped to attain Christ consciousness, be our God self, our divine self in this earthly experience, but that we are essential for the creation of heaven on earth. That's what this conceptualization brought us. And if any of your members of your organizations have doubts like I did about my own spirituality, or my own divine beingness, this might help them. This conceptualization might help them to really embody the fact that they are divine. You know, how you look out at the horizon and you see the earth that appears flat. Now, even though we see the earth appearing flat, we know that the earth is a sphere, it's a circle. And because science has proven, we've seen shots of it from space, we know that it's round. That knowing that we know, that's where we want to get in consciousness, to know that we are spiritual beings, to know that God is everywhere present. And so that's what these messages from Spirit are bringing to us, the capability of really knowing, engulfing, embedding that into our consciousness. So that's just really all I wanted to bring. This could be a whole different workshop or times, that I want to go back to how the Two Doors vision has evolved. And it's evolved into the practice of living in heart-centered gratitude. And if you want to take it to the next slide. Yeah, in 2018, I mentioned to you there was a women's expo, and that was the very first time that I got a message from Spirit, talk about the Two Doors vision. So that's what I did. And then the next year, I actually gave a TEDx talk on living in heart-centered gratitude. And also I closed my energy healing practice, because that anchoring to the feeling of gratitude in your heart, it does that. It does change you from the inside out. It makes you into a different person, and it does totally transform your world. So, and then the next slide, please. So the next year, I was asked by Humanity's team. They wanted to interview me, so they did for an hour. And that was actually the very first time that I shared all three of these messages, like I am today with you, in public. But the synchronistic thing of this interview was scheduled several weeks before, and then Humanity's team had to change it because of a conflict in schedule. They changed it to Juneteenth, 2020. Now, that did not pass by the significance of that change, because I'm sharing these three messages from Spirit for the first time. And Juneteenth is all about celebrating the abolition of slavery. And yet, these three messages, I believe Spirit has brought us through these three messages, the abolition of the human condition, so that we can all know how divinely created we are. So then it was in 2021, the following year, that I opened the Living in Heart-Centered Gratitude Facebook group. So it was May of 2021, I opened that. And then I'd say by January of 2022, maybe there were about 40 or 50 members. And now, just a year and a half after that, there's over 400 members. It just keeps growing and growing. It's so active. And our members share, they freely share their gifts to bless one another in this group. So I really encourage your viewers, if they have any inclination to want to cultivate this practice of anchoring to the feeling of gratitude in their heart and benefit by all of the different gifts that our members share with one another, to please request to join. It's the group, not the page. So it's the Living in Heart Centered Gratitude group. So please join that if you'd like. So I've continued to do talks at the local church, and also last month I was one of the presenters at the International New Thought Alliance World Congress. And now today with you, Sharri, I'm giving this talk this is the only second time that I've shared all three of these messages in one presentation. But because of the last few weeks is when I've really gained clarity that my message, our message, really needs to be about that simple formula of anchoring to the feeling of gratitude in the heart, living in heart-centered gratitude. So the next slide, please. This was the last photo it was right at the very end of that 7-day of that Sacred Silence retreat back in 1999, and the significance of these photos. People may recognize this is a painting that is on display at Unity Village in Missouri. Back in 1999, the frame did not include a glass covering. My husband took this smaller picture with his camera. That was back when we had film and camera. And you can see in this smaller photo, divine love light. Now this was at the tail end, right after it had just completed the retreat. The divine light streaming in from above the painting, streaming in the right hand of Jesus in the painting. And then you might also notice there's this large white orb that's entering from the edge of the painting. And like I said, it's entering from the edge of the painting, not the edge of the photo. That's significant. So it's coming in the edge of the painting. And then less than a minute later, with my own camera, I took this photo of the painting. And that white orb had streamed through the back of the heart chakra of Jesus in the painting, and it came streaming through. Just streaming through. And if you look closely, there's even like what I call love bubbles right up here, where it's more congealed love right in here. I believe Jesus was trying to tell me a message of like, Patricia, maybe all of us, the message, yes, you've really got that divine connection in the head and through meditation. Yeah. We need to bring that connection, that divine love that you feel when you're in meditation, when you're in that divine connection, down into the body, into the heart, and radiate it out to others. And then it was just a couple of weeks later that Two Doors vision downloaded. And I still didn't get it. But anyway, now I've got it. I've got it. This is our message. Our message is to just put into practice this little formula of anchoring to the feeling of gratitude in the heart. So if you'll show the next, this, I tell you, Buckminster Fuller, he said way back when, this futurist, he said, don't ever try to struggle about changing an existing paradigm, I paraphrase, but just create a new model in which the old paradigm dissolves away, disappears. And then it was Dr. Joe Dispenza that I heard not that long ago say, what humanity needs is a simple formula. Well, I believe this living in heart-centered gratitude, this anchoring to the feeling of gratitude in the heart all day, every day, is that simple formula. And all of our New Thought religions, all of the New Thought organizations, all of the movements that are afoot right now, if we just adopt this one simple formula and incorporate it into the organizational purposes and into the religions and whatnot, just incorporate this and collaborate together to do this one practice, oh my gosh, what a difference energetically in race consciousness, in the whole field, the quantum field, the difference it would make. So that's my sharing, really. I hope I didn't take too much time.
No, definitely did not take too much time. It was wonderful. And I personally have been believing and relying on and practicing the importance of gratitude for 20 years. Gratitude is the best way to change your focus. Gratitude is the best way to lift your attention. Gratitude is the best way to unlock whatever it is that's blocking the good you think is yours but isn't here. All of that. Gratitude is the answer. So count me in. I'm ready.
Okay, awesome.
Now, I do have 4 questions that I ask all my guests. So I want to ask you also. The first one, and I ask the same question to everybody. The answers are all different. They all say the same thing. They just say them in different ways. So here's the first one. How does what you do, how does this heart-centered gratitude process encourage, enliven, activate, pick your own verb, conscious evolution?
Oh my gosh. I think it's going to be phenomenal. I think it's going to be phenomenal because, prior to my getting this process, which took, like I said, 19 years to even begin to get it, I thought I was a grateful person, and I was to a certain extent, and I would think grateful thoughts and it would change my outlook and so on and so forth. But this little simple formula of anchoring to the feeling of gratitude, the heart, it changes our whole field vibrationally, where we become electromagnetic, vibrant fields of radiating this high vibration that goes out and affects the world. So it without any effort, without any strain, without even doing it, without even everything, by just maintaining our own energy field in that higher vibration, by anchoring to the feeling of gratitude in our heart, we are bringing our light to the world. We are making a significant change in race consciousness, in global consciousness, in planetary consciousness. So it's monumental. And the more of us that do it, the more synergistic and powerful and rapidly this paradigm shift will take place.
Okay, question number 2. I like question number 1. Question number 2, very similar but not quite the same. How does the heart-centered gratitude movement encourage, unveil, support world peace?
Oh, it just it keeps the heart completely open and in gratitude, and that gratitude leaves us into that wanting to connect in unity consciousness and love, feeling such love for everything, appreciation and love for everything. That wanting to connect, it's leading us towards unity consciousness. It's really leading us individually, but we're really doing the work collectively into a realization of oneness, that unity consciousness, that connecting with others, that a reverence for all of life, the sacredness of life. We really begin to get it. So did that answer it?
Yes. Okay, here's the third one. Now, you might need to think a minute about this one, but that's okay. We got time. Provided on the presumption that every single choice, every activity, every event, every occurrence goes exactly the way you want it to go. 10 years from now, what does heart-centered gratitude look like?
Oh, I truly believe that if we collaborate and incorporate this practice of anchoring to the feeling of gratitude in our heart, if a number of us, and I think there's a tipping point, right?
Oh, the
So
100.
it's not like all of us, but a number of us, and even just our New Thought communities and organizations and movements, if we just all incorporated it, I believe that living in heart-centered gratitude can actually create heaven on earth, just like the Two Doors vision revealed. Mhm.
Oh, okay, well, here's the last question. Will you come back?
Oh, I'd be so honored to do
All
that.
righty. I don't let people get away from me. The first opening I have is the 28th of May next year. Will you take it? Can I pencil you in?
I even without looking at my calendar, I don't think I have it that far. I'd say yes, yes, yes.
Yay. I can't wait to see what marvelous new things you will have discovered between now and then.
And what date is it again?
The 28th of May. Don't worry, I'll send you a reminder.
Okay, yes, I will pencil it in right now on my calendar.
All right, and folks, I want you to know that, you'll know too, so don't forget to come back. And next week, I'm going to be at the Parliament of World Religions in Chicago, and I'm going to be doing a live interview in person, in the same room, both of us and the camera, with Reverend Chris Plym, who is the head of the Centers for Spiritual Living Global Heart of Peace Initiative. So that one is going to be a really power-packed interview, and I hope you'll join us then, and have a great week between now and then. Bye-bye.
Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing things.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.